Hi there, I'm Sue Stockdale and I'm host for the Sports 2000 podcast. Our series takes you behind the scenes of this British sports car prototype series that includes Duratecs and Pintos, and I talk to some of the people involved in the Sports 2000 community, giving you an insight into why Sports 2000 is sometimes called motorsport's best kept secret. Well, as we head towards the final race of the 2022 season, which will be in Brands Hatch, I'm excited that my guests in this episode are the Law family, Ian, Ash and Josh, for whom racing in the Duratec category is truly a family affair. I'm pleased to say that Josh has already secured the Duratec Championship win for this season and deserves huge congratulations on this success. And I'll be finding out why they all enjoy being part of the Sports 2000 community so much. Welcome to the podcast, the Law family. It's great to speak to you today.
Hi, I'm Ian, I'm Dad.
I'm Josh, at number 91.
And I'm Ash, number 73.
Brilliant. Well, you're ahead of the curve here, giving me your car numbers as well, so that's really helpful for the listener. I know you run a family business. Ian, what does that involve?
We've got a few bits and pieces going on. Mostly it's a vehicle rental, which concentrates on the construction type of business. So we've got tippers and grab lorries, hot boxes, and a lot of transit type. We do coach hire for school contracts. We've got full consultancy and a few other bits and pieces going on. But hopefully it's diverse enough that when one side of the business slackens off a bit, the other side of stuff gets busier, and we seem to be keeping ourselves busy.
Well, if the theme's transport, and we're certainly going to be talking about transport of a different nature today in this Sports 2000 podcast. So I'm wondering, how did you all get into Sports 2000 in the first place?
Well, I can answer that if you like. In about 2016, Josh had virtually no interest in cars at all. It was just a means of getting to and from his gigs as a drummer. Ash was in the police force, was very much into cars and driving, and had done training in the police force. And I was just interested in cars. I'd had some interest in racing when I was a lot younger with a neighbour of mine. I'd gone to help, but that was in stock cars, which couldn't really be further from Sports 2000. And we decided to build a track day car. And having done a few track days, it became fairly clear that Josh and Ash had a bit of a flair for the driving, and I obviously thought that I was a great driver. And it was it was time to perhaps get ourselves a bit of tuition. Fairly long story short, we ended up at Thruxton, where Mike Turner did tuition for Josh and Ash. And being the salesman that he is, he convinced us that we should go racing. So without ever going to watch a Sports 2000 race, we went and bought a couple of Shrike race cars and ended up at Silverstone for our first race, having never watched it or been anywhere near it before, and pretty much made complete fools of ourselves for the first couple of races. At that time, Josh and I were sharing a car. It became fairly obvious that Josh was going to do anything. He didn't need me taking half the races, so I stopped doing it. I won't say it's because I wasn't any good, it's because I was making way for Josh. That's really the story of how we got started.
It sounds like you're all risk takers in various degrees, being willing to just jump in there and drive. Ash, I'm wondering, from when you were perhaps having that discussion with your dad and Josh about getting into cars, were you dragged into it, or did you jump at it with enthusiasm?
Well, we probably didn't have that discussion, and that was half the problem. Dad bought a car, and very quickly after, I bought a matching car, and we didn't really talk, and that was probably the end of my dad's racing career before it even started. Very strangely, my daughter was actually born on the night of Silverstone on Friday night, so I did practice, and then I rushed home, and Dad and Josh both actually raced at Silverstone, Josh in my car and my dad in his car. And there's a very famous spin on YouTube in front of Michael Gibbons. It was down to the tyre pressures. That's how much of a novice we were. We went out and forgot to change the tyre pressures in the car. So there was a full 360 on the warm-up lap. And we never really talked about racing, but that's how we got into it.
Josh, I know that obviously you are champion this year in the Duratec category. If I'm right, you've won the championship now.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you were a youngster then, did cars appeal to you at all?
Well, they did. I remember being sort of amazed by Formula One when I was younger, when Michael Schumacher was in his dominant phase. But beyond that, no, not really. I didn't really have much of time for it. All my interest was in music, really. I'm sort of a bit tunnel vision. So once I've got something on my mind, that's all I can think about. So I was kind of all in with the music, and then I didn't really get interested in cars more deeply and a bit later on, like my dad said, when he decided to take us along for this wild ride.
Well, we'll get into talking a little bit about the music later on in the conversation. I just want to explore a little bit more about the family element of it here.
I think it's certainly good for us as father and son team because we get to spend quality time together, especially as in the family business, we very often things are quite tense. It's a good time for us to wind down and have the time to spend with other people. The races are 20 minutes or 25 minutes, but every time we go away, we're there for 3 days. So it's nice to have the whole experience of mixing with other people. We've made good friends over the last few years, and we get a lot of support. People come with us and meet us there on a regular basis. People are consistently there, so they help us. It is a family, but we include other people in it, if you like. So it's not just us three.
Yeah, team law is beyond us, just us. It's everyone. It's my mum, it's Pete and Claire and Andy and Phil and Gary and wives and girlfriends and everyone who comes and is there every time helping us out. And Mark and Kirsty, everyone. I've probably forgotten someone.
I've got a couple of my friends come along and they cook the breakfast every morning, and we call them Fanny and Johnny. I don't know if you remember Fanny Craddock. We call them Fanny and Johnny. They do all the cooking every morning.
Did the Sports 2000 barbecue as well. They were
Oh yeah, they did, yeah.
main chefs for the barbecue, the race meeting. I think it was Thruxton, was it?
Well, they always say that people race on their stomachs, so you've got to be able to eat the right food.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're an important part of the team as well.
We've got our number one fans, our auntie and uncle. They're there all the time. It's one big family, really.
Well, it's important from the races that I've been along to see. You've got a big Pantechnicon, haven't you, that transports the vehicles to each race?
Yes, we're having the 2 cars and needing somewhere to sleep. It's because our business is transport and we've got the right license and so on. It just made sense to stick it all into one vehicle rather than pulling a couple of trailers around. And it's nice to have. It's a fair bit of work to put it up and down and so on. But so we tend to be first ones there and almost last ones out most times. But yeah, it's good.
Claim your space in the paddock as early as you can.
I'll be honest here. The reason we're the first ones there is because I'm not great at parking, so I need plenty of room.
Well, that sounds like a good reason as any. And in terms of preparation for racing, you talked about the wider support team there of people that you have around you to help you on a weekend and to come and be fans as well. Josh and Ash, what, if any, preparation do you do before a race?
Well, first of all, my dad does most of the preparation of the cars, and without him, we wouldn't be able to do it. But obviously, business responsibilities do sometimes mean a bit of a lack of time to try and do that. But we do as much as we can to help. And for me, I don't really do much preparation at all. I used to have to try and learn the tracks a little bit. Now we're a little bit more experienced at the tracks. That doesn't come so difficult. Just focus on the driving, really. I'm not sure about Josh. I think he does a load of stretches and various runs and stuff. He'll tell you a bit about that in a minute.
Well, not really stretches. I just like to stay fit. Obviously, it helps being healthy, fit and healthy. So yeah, I do that for a lot more reasons other than just the driving. It's just something I enjoy in life. Definitely helps. And then preparation is just down to helping my dad out, really, making sure that the cars have had all the TLC they need, and hopefully we've pack everything and get it all sorted and do all the little jobs in between races. That's about it, really. Obviously, some like track knowledge as well. There's lots of research you can do on, just remind yourself of which way they go. But aside from that, it's just staying fit and healthy and trying to keep sharp, really.
And in keeping sharp, I know that drivers in many categories these days are doing sim racing or sim preparation out of season to keep their high in. Do either of you get involved in practicing on a sim?
Yeah, so I have a PlayStation that I've got project cars on, and I have a go on that sometimes just for a bit of fun, but nothing serious. But it is useful if you go into a track you've never been to before, because you can get a real look at what it's like before you actually go there. So that's useful. But I don't do any iRacing stuff or competing or anything yet. And I think you're about the same, Ash, aren't you? You've got one for a bit of fun, but it's not a serious thing.
The good thing about the sim is you can press the reset button.
It's cheaper to repair.
Yeah.
If you hit something.
Yeah, but I don't really go on it very much. To be honest, I probably haven't been on it for over a year. That not very much.
The sense I get from both of you is a natural talent and a willingness to just give something a try. And if it's fun, you keep doing it. Would you say that is the way you approach driving a Duratec?
Everything I do, I always just try and throw myself into it. I think you can do that a little bit, but you need to put time and effort into learning about driving a race car and racecraft and how to understand where the limit is and how to approach it and go beyond it. And so you can't just go barreling into it without any sort of thought or preparation. But I do just like to get stuck in and involved.
Josh is the one who thinks about things, and if it interests him, he'll learn about it and research it. Where I think it's a bit like playing the piano. I would love to play the piano, but I'm not prepared to put the effort into learning. It's a bit the same sort of thing, really, whereas Josh will put that effort in and he will look at it. And I think Ash is probably about halfway between us because he's had a different life. At the time, he's that bit older, he's already got his own family and commitments and all the rest of it, so probably hasn't had the time to invest into play.
I think it's very hard to say you have a natural talent because I don't know about Josh personally, but I definitely threw myself into it at the start thinking I was going to be really good. And all of a sudden you realise that you're not the best at something that you're doing. And you don't walk into a race and all of a sudden be in the midfield. We walked into the race and we were very much at the back. And it's very challenging to learn to do something at 130 miles an hour going around a corner when you've got all these different things to think about. You've done all of this in your head before you go out there. As you get a little bit of experience, we didn't do karting. We literally did a few track days. It's a very good experience and you learn lots and there's lots to learn. Josh is naturally fast, but he does put the work in to get there. And that's all credit to him. But he was naturally fast 3 years ago and didn't win the championship and didn't win races regularly. And this year he's pretty much won every race apart from one where he was in the lead and didn't finish and another one where he came second. It's about putting all of those little pieces together and being consistently fast. That's the challenge.
Yeah, it does sound like that. You've got to get to the end of a race. You can have one brilliant lap, but you've got to put them together time and time and time again. Josh, you mentioned earlier about your interest in music, and I know your band played at the Dinner and Dance for Sports 2000 at the beginning of this year. I attended that and certainly very much enjoyed the music that your band was playing. I'm wondering, one might look at a band and think about it as a team, and then you've also got team law here in racing. What do you think are the common characteristics between being part of the band and being part of team law here in Sports 2000?
So yeah, I think there's definitely things that you can take from each situation or transferable skills perhaps that I've learned over my career so far in music. In a band, obviously, everyone works together to create one end product. There's an amalgamation of lots of people coming together. So I don't know, I've never really thought about it before, but I suppose that's probably subconsciously a bit sort of how I feel about working on the race car there, doing their bit and mucking in to create this ultimate end goal of hopefully winning a race or, or getting a pole position or whatever it is. People skills, I suppose, as well, because in team it's about everyone working together, isn't it? And having a focus, like a joint goal and coming together and creating positivity and everything. I suppose I do try to transfer those skills across in both worlds, but I've never actually really thought about it before.
I've sometimes thought about the connection between learning to be a musician and learning to be a racing driver, because the hours and hours of commitment and practice that went into learning to be a musician, it's kind of taught him to learn, which I would imagine has helped. And also learning to accept feedback, positive or negative, to act on it, because I know his drum teacher would be regarded as one of the best drum teachers in the country, possibly the world even. Amongst musicians, he was extremely well known, but he didn't pull his punches. If he was getting it wrong, he would tell him, and Josh learnt to take it, learn from it and act upon it. And I think that's probably a skill that he'll carry for life, is the how to learn and to take the feedback and so on.
And just thought about this as well. It's just self-analysis as well, because like data analysis in motorsport now, everyone's got some way of looking at data, whether it's video or GPS traces or a combination of both or whatever. Every time you go out and drive the car, even if you're on pole position, you don't come in and just go, oh, well, that was perfect. You still get data out and have a look at it and go, I could have found a little bit more time there. I could do this a little bit better, and sort of critique everything you're doing all the time, try and improve. I think that probably come quite naturally because, like my dad says, of the years, 6 hours practicing different things a day at my drums.
And I was doing some research on racing drivers who either drum or are musicians. I know Lewis Hamilton plays guitar and the piano, and Lando Norris has recently taken up the drums. There's an IndyCar young driver, Colton Herta, who's a drummer, as well as Bubba Wallace in NASCAR, who is also a drummer. And again, Josh, I'm wondering the actual skill of drumming. I'm wondering if you see any connection between what that skill is and thinking about rhythm, and what are the connections between drumming and driving a car?
I think there's a few, probably. You've got, firstly, dealing with pressure and high consequence situations is something I'm probably a bit more used to. If you turn up to cover a show for someone and you've never done it before, and you've got to walk into an unfamiliar environment with people you don't know, and when the curtain goes up, that's it. You have to perform. There's no stop and let's redo that. So I'm probably quite a bit more used to dealing with high pressure situations. So staying calm when you're in the thick of a race or something, that's probably quite a good relation between the two.
I almost think drumming's a bit like rubbing your head and patting your stomach at the same time.
Yes.
All of your limbs are doing different things. And therefore, there's probably a bit that your brain has to learn to do different things at the same time.
Yeah, that's another thing. The feet and coordination thing is probably used to doing different things with different limbs at different times and everything. So yeah, learning how to multitask in a car and do all these different things at once. It's quite busy in the cockpit. Probably just feels a little bit more natural as well.
And Ash, how do you cope with all of those things you have to be doing at the same time when you're driving your Duratec?
Well, I think the first few years of racing, you're still thinking about how you're driving the car and what you're actually doing, as in with your hands and your feet. The last year or year and a half or so, I've kind of forgotten about that a bit. That comes a bit more naturally now, and I'm focusing a bit more on my racecraft, my lines, the other people. Something that's a bit of a challenge is not driving to the same. So you might drive around and feel like you're doing really well, and then all of a sudden you come up to someone, and instead of carrying on, you kind of say, I'm with this person now, and you can't go anywhere. But you caught them for a reason, and dealing with that and learning that racecraft, learning where you can overtake and where you might not be able to overtake, and likewise if they're coming up behind you, where they might overtake you. It's just a part of the process of learning to race the car, I suppose. That racecraft's quite a good thing, and in Sports 2000 there's lots of that, because there's lots of different types and speeds of cars all having their own little races. It's quite good. I definitely think it's something that you have to practice as you do it, and that's how I learn things, by doing it. I really struggle to watch a video or think about it and be able to do it, so actually getting in the car and having that seat time is really helpful.
And what's it like on the pit wall or wherever you stand, Ian, watching your two sons race? Are you feeling competitive as you're watching them?
I pace up and down a bit. I said we're lucky to have loads of good people around us, and in terms of the pit board, that's looked after by Mark and Claire as a rule, and so I just get to watch and listen to the commentary, and generally feel quite nervous, which I probably shouldn't, but I do, and that's so I'm probably a bit grumpy at that point if anybody asks any questions.
So we'll tell all the listeners to avoid you during a race, not to come up and speak to you. Yeah. And in terms of looking ahead, the final race of the season in a couple of weeks' time?
Yes, Brands Hatch. That'll be the last one.
Yeah. Well, there's still one race to go. Josh, you are the Duratec champion for this year. When did you find out that you'd become champion? I know there's a bit of a story about that.
So we had the last race at Alton Park. I kind of thought there might be a chance that we could wrap the championship up there, but I hadn't sat down and done any maths and knew what had to happen for that result to happen. So we went and did the race meeting and just thought I'll just go out and try and win it like every other race, which was all going very well. And then because it's an endurance race, we had the pit stop and everything, and I messed the timing up of my pit stop. Anyway, long story short, I finished second. So I finished the race a little bit gutted because I wanted to win it, obviously. And then a couple of people came up to me and said, "Oh, well done, you've won the championship." And a couple of other people came up to me and said, "Well done, I think you might have won the championship." So I never really knew. So we cut up and didn't want to feel too happy about it or celebrate or anything because I wasn't sure if we had, and I didn't want to tempt fate, We packed up, drove home, massive traffic jam on the one, I think it was, on the way home. Didn't get home till about 3:30 in the morning, at which point I got my little pad out and sat at the kitchen table, did the maths, and went, just won the championship. Unbelievable. Yeah, so it was about 3:30 in the morning in my kitchen at home, and then literally my dad come through the door about 20 minutes later, and I said, "Oh, Dad, hello, we just won the championship." He gave me a hug and went, "Brilliant, going to bed. See ya." I was like, yeah.
That's how family can bring you down to earth with the bump.
Yeah. No, but we're looking forward to having a good old celebrate at Brands.
It'll be great to go out in that final race and to know that you're already the winner and not have to be concerned about placing in the final race at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, the pressure's off in a way, but also want to finish the year on a high. We've had such a good year. Yeah, it'd be really nice for everyone. Myself, my dad, Ash, everyone in the team that works so hard, especially Andy, who's helped so much with running the cars, and Pete and Claire and Mark and everyone. It'd just be great to end the year on a high with a couple of wins and have a real big celebration at Brands. We'll see.
One of the things that helps many teams be able to race, Josh, are having sponsors. Do you have sponsors?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it is a massive help, and we really appreciate it. We've got a lovely sort of partnership with Mike Lowe and Creative Funding Solutions, who help us out throughout the season and also keep the car looking absolutely tip-top. Looks lovely with their livery.
We're hoping that Mike from Creative Funding will make it along there as well, because they've been obviously a massive support to us over this year. And so Brands is always a nice place to be if we can get some nice photos and have a bit of a celebration there with the Creative Funding guys and their livery. Nice opportunity to thank them.
And I know one of the things that many of the other podcast guests have talked about is about the sense of camaraderie in the paddock. Have you experienced that kind of support that you have around you from your other competitors?
Yes, very much so. Obviously, very close to the guys in MCR, because it's an MCR, or both MCR cars that we're running, and they've been fantastic help to us. But I don't think there's anybody in the paddock that wouldn't lend you something if they had it, because I think everybody wants as many people to get back out and race as possible to make it good from a spectator point of view and from a driver's point of view, because there's more people to race. Anybody would lend you anything to get you back out on the track. And then also, like I said before, we're all there usually for 3 days. There's only a short amount of that time that's racing, so everybody tries to get on and have a barbecue, have a beer together. And we've never been involved in any other racing, but I don't think that you get this level of camaraderie elsewhere. If you was to go and race a Radical, I think it would be different. But it is good, and I guess that's a lot of the people that are there doing it have been doing it for a very long time, and they all know each other. I guess the annual dinner dance probably helps because everybody gets to be together and let their hair down, and I feel that a lot of people have made a lot of good friendships there. It's good.
Yeah, I certainly feel that I've made friends in Sports 2000 that I would still be friends with for a long, long time if we never did Sports 2000 again, So, yeah, it really is great to have such a nice bunch of people in the paddock, basically.
And looking ahead to the future then, Ash and Josh, are there any particular races that you are looking forward to doing in the future, or any particular circuits that you are looking forward to driving at?
So I think in November, we're going to go to Paul Ricard, a part of the Quick Ross Beef team, racing a Tiger in the 24-hour race over there, which I am excited out of my skin for. Can't wait.
And I featured that race and the team that were there last year in one of the previous podcasts. So if listeners are wanting to find out more about that race and what other people's experiences have been, they can certainly tune in to that podcast episode. Ash, how about you? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to go along and help out, sort that out. That'll be good. But I am looking forward to going back to Spa at some point. That's the track that I would like to go back to. I don't know when or if a European round will be reinstated, but that's my absolute favourite track of all time. So I'd like to go back there. And I think Alton Park's probably the best circuit that I like in the UK. It's just such a shame we can only race there on one day of the weekend. That'd be super fantastic if we could go there for the whole weekend.
And Ian, what are your ambitions for your boys for next year?
I'd like to see, obviously, another championship win next year. Keen to see Ashley up the front, carry on doing what we're doing. It would be easy to say we want to go on and do this and do that, but to be quite honest, I don't think that funds would allow. I don't think you can get better value than Sports 2000, so there isn't really, short of winning the lottery, there isn't anything else that we're likely to do other than Sports 2000. And again, like I said, we get on so well with all of the people. Why would you want to change it? For me, it's just more of the same, please.
Well, it sounds like it's a winning formula, certainly this season, in terms of what has happened for your team. Josh, I don't know whether to ask you this question, perhaps whether we'll see your band if there's a dinner dance for Sports 2000 to celebrate this season.
I think I haven't been involved in the organising of it, but as far as I'm aware, we will be back. We'll be playing at the next dinner dance as well.
Well, there's something for our listeners to look forward to if they are thinking that far ahead. It's been wonderful to speak to you all today as a group, to see the happiness on your faces, actually, as you're talking about being part of this championship and all being together in this activity. So I wish you well for upcoming races. Congratulations again, Josh, on your championship win for this season. And good luck for all of you into 2023.
The thing I'd really like to say, and I think Josh would join me, is we've got to say thanks very much to our mum and dad for letting us do this racing and getting us into it and persevering with us doing it. Because without that, the stresses of life and stuff, it is really our release. And like my dad said earlier, it's a good time for us to all enjoy a bit of family time together without anything else to worry about. And hopefully we'll do it for quite a bit of time.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Ash and Josh and Ian in this conversation. And remember, we've got 20 more episodes of the Sports 2000 podcast that you can listen to. So please spread the word and tell others who may want to listen to them as well. You can find Sports 2000 on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon for our next episode.